Our top story today, tensions between Iran and Israel continue to escalate as both sides trade strikes, warnings and cyber attacks on day 7 of the conflict. Israel has issued an urgent evacuation warning for Iran's Arak and Kondab regions, saying it is carrying out strikes on Iranian military infrastructure in Tehran and other cities. The Israeli army confirmed strikes near missile storage facilities in western Iran. Earlier, police officers were injured after strikes near Iran's National Police headquarters. Israel also struck an area near the Red Crescent's building in Tehran. Iran responded by firing hypersonic missiles at Israel and issued an evacuation alert for the Israeli city of Haifa, warning of further retaliation. Meanwhile, Tehran has imposed stricter internet controls, accusing Israel of using cyberspace for military operations. Iran also claims Israel briefly hacked state television, urging public unrest. Diplomatic fallout is also growing too. Iran summoned the Swiss and German ambassador over statements made by President Trump and Chancellor Merz in support of Israel. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said Iran remains committed to diplomacy but will continue to defend itself. The Israeli military confirmed more missiles have been fired from Iran towards Israel as defensive systems remain active. In a related development, the diplomatic pressure is mounting as the Iran-Israel war enters its 7th day, with global powers calling for de-escalation. US President Donald Trump has told aides he approved attack plans on Iran, but says a final decision is still pending. He also stated Iran wants to meet and said that a deal could still happen, leaving the door open for talks. Let's listen in to what US President Trump had to say.
Sure, anything could happen, right? Of that? Sure, that could happen. Yeah, I have ideas as to what to do, but I haven't made a final. I like to make the final decision 1 second before it's due, because things change. I mean, especially with war, things change with war. It can go from one extreme to the other.
Reports say Iran would accept Trump's offer to meet, even as missiles continue to fly. Russia's President Vladimir Putin confirmed Moscow supplied military hardware to Iran, but said it's not related to the current crisis. He stressed Russia's treaty with Iran doesn't include military cooperation and called for both Iran and Israel to take the first step towards a resolution. Putin also spoke to Trump and Israeli leaders, saying security for both sides must be ensured, including Iran's right to peaceful nuclear energy.
На сегодняшний день в Иране, при всей сложности происходящих там внутриполитических процессов, мы об этом знаем, и, я думаю, нет смысла углубляться, но все-таки происходит консолидация общества вокруг политического руководства страны. Это тонкий вопрос. И, конечно, нужно здесь быть очень аккуратным, но, на мой взгляд, в целом такое решение может быть найдено.
Meanwhile, the United Nations Security Council will meet on Friday to address the conflict as requested by Iran and supported by Russia, China and Pakistan. France's President Emmanuel Macron has urged Israel to stop strikes not related to nuclear or missile sites, warning of civilian casualties and regional destabilization. North Korea has also condemned Israel's actions, calling it an unpardonable crime against humanity and warning the West against escalating the war. We're now joined by our guest, Adit Kothari, who is a foreign affairs expert. He's located in New Delhi. Adit, thank you very much for joining us on the program. We have seen a week of this conflict now, Adit, a week since it's all kicked off. How would you analyse the two's actions so far? Constant trading of strikes, constant evacuation orders. We've seen now people fleeing Tehran, the Iranian missiles penetrating the Iron Dome on some occasions. What are your thoughts on this conflict? We're also seeing mass calls for de-escalation. What are your thoughts on how this situation is unfolding?
Thanks for having me, Tom. So I think if you look at it from an Iranian perspective, Iran does have a long history of wars, and this particular preemptive attack by Israel, supported by the US, has enraged not only just the government in Iran, but also the people of Iran. I mean, many people that you would have once thought of being against the Iranian regime have now started to show, sympathies for the particular regime at this point. So the threats are to its identity and continued existence, which is not really going down very well, compounded by the unpredictability of the United States. From a Trump perspective, I think the limitations or the options that we have from a mathematical option is about three of them, which is whether he's going to be breaching the commitment to the American people, now pulling the United States into a state of active war. Will they be deploying B-2, B-24 bombers, which could penetrate the nuclear facilities meters into the ground, followed by further bombs to destabilize the facilities? This would be a massive military feat, and threats to American bases and allies, which is around the West Asian region. So all of those kind of calculations come into existence. In addition, I think what we've seen over the last hour or so, where 60 Israeli fighters have now galvanized and hit 20 military sites across Iran, along with the nuclear R&D and centrifuge centers. That basically demonstrates that this war is not going to de-escalate anytime soon. Tom.
Adit, how would you analyse the US president's actions in this conflict? Obviously, he is being vocal, speaking to press, putting things out in his Truth Social, saying that he is willing to use military threats, and even there's been a kind of mulling over the assassination of Iran's supreme leader, Ali Ayatollah Khamenei. But he's still open to diplomacy, it seems, and Iran has also said, Iran wants to meet. How do you analyse Donald Trump's actions and communication now we've had a week of this conflict?
So I think what Donald Trump is basically hinting at is a unconditional surrender, and that is not what the Iranian regime or the IRGC are prepared for. They are willing to have diplomatic discussions, but diplomatic discussions which do not look at the unconditional surrender aspect. They want to sit down and talk about having the rights to basically enrich uranium and have the rights to nuclear options for them as a deterrence, which the United States and Israel are not prepared to yield to. If we look at from a regime change perspective, the Khameneis have been in power for almost about 35 years, taking the office in 1989. And the way the Iranian regime basically works is, even if you do take out Khamenei, the IRGC will still be in control of Iran. They will go through with curfews, and they will ensure that any demonstrations, any revolutions are quelled. And from a next leadership void perspective, they have something called the Assembly of Experts, which is an 88-member body of Islamic jurists, which will basically then come up with the next leader in question. So there is not going to be a void which the United States or Israel will be able to fill in with the IRGC still there in control, in active control of the situation in Iran. It will always be the might of the IRGC which will stay. So which is why a regime change of getting someone like a Reza Shah Pahlavi back into Iran is not going to engineer very well for the United States. So.
There's a real worry by some here that this could spark a wider war in the region and possibly beyond. If you could, briefly, because we are running out of time, there are alliances in this. If you could talk a bit about who the diplomatic partners to Iran and Israel, and how this could possibly spark something wider than it is already.
So one of the consequences of this particular war going on is going to be the impacts on the fuel prices, on the global fuel prices, just not people who buy, in countries which buy fuel from Iran. My signal is going towards India, which is going to be hit fairly prudently as a consequence of this war getting elongated. But the concerns for the world is also, that of peace and tranquility, because ultimately there are going to be more allies of the United States and Israel which are going to be pulled in. I think the United Kingdom is already mulling over providing some sort of assistance to Israel to ensure that the nuclear facilities, the enrichment facilities in Iran are basically mitigated. Tom.
Adit Qadari, thank you very much for joining us on the programme. We now move over to Russia.